Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca Della Garza, and you have to check out Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast podcast. I was a guest. He has the best guests always. Check him out.
Relationships matter because people buy people, and that's why I buy Eddie Zarin Insurance of the Zarin Insurance Agency in Pensacola, Florida. A family-owned business with over 50 years in the business, and they treat people the right way. From homeowners insurance to contractors insurance, condo insurance, commercial insurance, all the different coverages that are out there, and of course auto insurance, they've got you covered. They worry about you first. You're more than a policy number. You're a person who they're watching out for, not when the sun is shining, but after the hurricane has left. If you want real service with real savings, contact Eddie Zarin at the Eddie Zarin Insurance Agency. www.zarininsurance.com. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did. Hi, friends. Gene Valentino, and welcome again to another episode of the Grassroots Truthcast. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense. And it goes on. This is the preamble to our Constitution. I remember Ms. Lovejoy back in the 60s when I was in middle school teaching me about this preamble. In fact, we had to memorize it before in order to pass the course. We had to because it was an important part of our social studies and American history. Today, I'm sitting next to Dr. Douglas Frank, who's following that mantra, that rule, that belief that this nation is worth saving. We have a glorious nation, and we're in our 250 years of celebration, unlike any nation in the world. None of them, not one, has lasted this long or gone this far. And it's time for us to make sure we don't lose it. Dr. Douglas Frank, thank you for joining me today.
Good to be with you, brother.
Dr. Douglas Frank from the Midwest, from Ohio originally, and is traveling around the nation, visiting hundreds of villages and towns and communities to focus on one topic, Doctor?
Election integrity.
Election integrity, election fraud, and the improprieties at the state and local level that you have brought out on your journey nationwide.
Correct.
What have you concluded?
Well, I think people don't know what the problem with our elections is. So what I do is I first red pill them. I wake people up, I show them what's wrong. And then once they know what's wrong, they say, uh-oh, what do we do about it? And so I give them a strategy for taking back local control of our elections. The core problem is that our elections are no longer locally controlled. And it's in every state. They're centrally controlled now. And people, even the clerks, even the election officials, don't understand it. So I have to go into a community and show them they're not in control of their own election. They think they are, and they're not. So I use their own data and show them they're not in control. And then they're, oh my goodness, what do I do about this, Dr. Frank? So
So let's focus nationwide on
Yes.
a pattern in general, but I love it if you drill down locally. We're broadcasting live in Pensacola, Florida, in a studio bunker on Navy Boulevard, but we're seen nationwide each week on Grassroots Truthcast. How does something specific at the local level transcend to a nationwide issue?
Well, there's really two things that happened in our history, in recent history, that matter. In 1993, the federal government passed National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. Some people call it motor voter. And what it is the federal government basically meddling in state elections. And they said, we want you to keep a central database because we want to be able to compare state to state. We want to be able to show that John Smith voted in Texas and he's also in the rolls in Oklahoma. Let's clean that up. So that was the intent, or at least the purported intent of it. The states all objected and said, no, we don't want to do that. It's expensive. So the federal government said, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll pay for it. And so that's NVRA, National Voter Registration Act, 1993. But the thing is the federal government doesn't just give you money. There are always strings attached. And so now it's kind of the federal government tinkering in state elections. That's the first big moment, and I'll come back to that. The next big moment is 2002, Help America Vote Act. In fact, that is kind of the excuse they used for that was the hanging chads here in Florida. They said, we don't want you guys using these paper ballots anymore. We want to do it electronically. The states all said, too expensive, not secure, we don't want to do it. The federal government said, we'll take care of that for you. We'll give you grants to pay for the machines, and we'll set up these highly secure networks. And so the federal government started giving grants to the states to buy electronic devices, and they set up an organization called CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, because all these machines are networked. People don't realize that, but they're all networked through federal networks that are supposed to be secure. So that's what happened in 2002.
And how does that differ from today when we think of the breach in security being at the local level? The network itself implies that it's a more regional network or statewide network.
It's national.
And national.
Yeah.
So we have different layers of fraud.
Yes.
And different motivations for circumventing an election.
Yes.
Dinesh D'Souza, 2000 Mules.
Yes.
Look what he uncovered.
Right.
Look how he had been admonished for uncovering it.
So in 2000 Mules, he's showing kind of the end step in the major way that there's fraud going on in our country. A lot of people think that the machines are flipping ballots. That's not normally the major type of fraud. The major way of fraud is stuffing ballots. You're putting in ballots for people who didn't really vote. And so that's what 2000 Mules showed. It showed the mules turning up at the drop boxes and turning in the ballots. That's kind of the end of the process. The fact that the machines and the rolls are online enables anybody who wants to cheat to know who's voted and what the tallies are. So guess what? You know how many ballots you need to stuff and who hasn't voted, so you know who to stuff for. And that's the real function of the fraud in the networks.
A friend of mine in a neighboring county reports that there were more voters for Joe Biden than there were registered voters in our neighboring county.
And that confirms what I just said.
How can that be?
You're stuffing ballots, and that's the problem. And
so the problem you're about to talk about has a different look and feel in each county, a different initiation of fraud. But the bottom line is the Democrat Party is trying to manipulate the election process because they're unable on their own to secure the outcome that the people vote for.
I don't always pick on the Democrats. I like pointing out, for example, that in Kentucky, which is a red state, they have 105% of their people registered. And in Oregon, which is a blue state, they have 105% of their people registered. And in Florida, you had, for the 2024 election, the 2020 election, you had 102% of your people registered. So I don't like just picking on the Democrats.
I wouldn't say it's one party, one side. I agree.
Yeah, I would say both parties are using the system.
So I hear from politicians in Tallahassee, statewide here in Florida, by good people trying to go to Tallahassee to get them to take an initiative to change things, to make things better.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. We don't want it to change.
Nope, they like it the way it is. It's ironic because the RNC, the National Republican Party, it's right in their platform that they are behind single-day voting, paper ballots, hand counting, get rid of the machines kind of thing, photo ID. The party of Florida, the Republican Party, the GOP, it's right in their platform. You have a supermajority in your legislature. How come you aren't going to single-day voting? On paper, hand counting, photo ID, etc. Well, because in Florida, you guys like mailing in your ballots. In fact, 1 in 3 of your ballots in Florida are coming in by mail. Contrast that to Alabama, which I'm doing a lot of work in the Wiregrass here in Alabama. 98% of their people vote on election day in person. What's wrong with you guys in Florida? There's no appetite for this. You guys like it this way.
We have grown accustomed to that
Yes.
which was pushed upon us.
Yeah, well said. Yes.
As opposed to not necessarily liking it.
Yeah,
but
right.
your point is made, and I think it's valid. So, look, I don't care if you like Donald Trump or not. He's
Yes.
come up with 1 day, 1 vote, ballot voting,
Yep.
in person or not at all. The exceptions would be the elderly, the infirmed,
Military.
the sick, and our military government folks overseas.
100%.
That's it.
Yep.
Now back it up with a starting point, which we're underway with as we're recording our episode right now. The House of Representatives has just passed the SAVE Act.
Yesterday.
It's before, and Senate is now about to hopefully approve it without having to kill the filibuster. But if they kill the filibuster, I'm okay with that too. I think we should live on the merits of a majority vote, not some ploy to get around certain people in different branches of government that are using the system to their benefit in the first place.
Yes.
So without going down that path, what brought you to Pensacola? How did you decide to put Pensacola on the hundreds of locations you came to?
Great question.
And what makes it different or similar to all the other election fraud issues nationwide?
I love that question. So when I first started this work, I was invited in 2020 by the Pennsylvania legislature to work with them, and I uncovered a lot of fraud. And as we were talking about before the interview, I then spent 2021 trying to fix this problem, trying to address this problem by speaking to legislatures, by speaking to secretaries of states, attorneys general. In fact, I flew around with Mike in his airplane quite a bit, Mike Lindell, meeting with AGs. We'd put together a Supreme Court case. We were getting signatures, so he and I are good friends as a result of that. He even made a documentary about my early work called Scientific Proof. So we thought that the solution was to meet with the legislatures, meet with the Secretary of States. And we learned, to our utter shock, that they like the system the way it is and they don't want to change it. And so that was an interesting situation. So 2021 was me learning politics. I'm a physicist. I came out of the ivory tower.
A physicist involved full-time in election integrity.
Right, so I'm a numbers guy.
You're all over that's good.
Yeah, I'm exactly.
Talk about applying your skills.
There you go. And my favorite thing is taking large data sets and making models. So guess what? What do you think an election is? It's large data sets
right.
and making models. So anyway, I spent 2021 learning that we're not going to fix this from the top down. So I began in 2022 working from the grassroots up, speaking of grassroots, and I've been much more successful at that. I've developed a whole set of steps. I call it 7 steps for taking back our elections.
Show that.
Yeah, 7 steps for taking back our elections. And I've been refining the strategy. Now, in the early days, I was concentrating on one county at a time because most states run their elections one county at a time. For example, we mentioned Reading and we mentioned Shasta County, Northern California. That's one of my early war zones, and we've won battles there. But boy, oh boy, is that hard. When you only have one county, every time that county makes a decision or a positive move, the state comes down on them like a load of bricks. So it's a war zone there because of that. So my strategy has evolved. It's grown. I don't just work in one county anymore. I organize a group of counties. So now the question is which counties should those be? And I liken it to a World War II situation. Let's say we're going to attack Germany. Do we start in Berlin? No. We find a beachhead, and we build a beachhead in Normandy. And then once we have the beachhead, then we can plan our strategy going forward. So where should the beachhead be? Not the big blue cities, the small red counties. The challenge I have when I go, which is why I'm here in the Panhandle.
Okay.
Because the small red counties, they're conservative. They think everything's okay. I walk into the county, I show them it's not okay. They're shocked. They're unhappy. I organize them to stand together. So now it's not just one county bucking the system. It's a group of counties telling the state, we're not going to comply with your system anymore because your system is enabling fraud in our in our community. And every case of fraud is nullifying a real ballot in our election, compromising our constitutional rights. So we don't have to comply with anything that compromises our constitutional rights. And so that's what I've been doing all over the country.
It's amazing to me when I sit back and think about it of just how strong our Constitution is and how well thought out our forefathers were in putting this document together. Because if you really look at it, Doctor, we have withstood a tsunami of bad behavior. And
Well said.
And I believe that in other regions of the world, it would be the collapse of that government. In this case, the three-legged stool of our Constitution probably survived because we had to go past the other one. If you got around one, you couldn't get past the other. To your point, to your point is the fact that you can start from the bottom up and find the beachhead anywhere around the nation.
Yes.
The same might apply. So the question is, what part of the elephant are you going to eat first here? Because I keep thinking about the deep state throughout the nation corrupting local government through the George Soros entities of the world.
Right.
In a governance sense. And here you are with a tiger by the tail just talking about election integrity and election fraud. So what's your approach? You think that the starting point should be correcting the local levels first as opposed to maybe a grander scheme of a constitutional amendment to fix it nationwide with one effort?
I don't think we're going to be able to fix it top down. I've learned that lesson. That was my 2020. It's got to be the grassroots. And I like what General Flynn says. He says, local action for national impact. And that's what I'm doing. Now, you brought up George Soros. That's a great point. In 2006, he launched what's called the Secretary of State Project. You can look it up, Google it, you'll see.
Okay.
And what he said was he was going to own every Secretary of State by 2020, in 2006. And what he basically was doing was getting into each state and funding to get control of elections. Well, that was very successful and very quick. I would say only 2 Secretary of States left in this country are uncontrolled, and one in Wyoming and one in Missouri. It's a bad situation we're in. I've sat down with these people. But then that was so successful so quickly, he started the AG project, he started the Sheriff project, and you know what he's doing now? He's changing school boards all over the country. How do you change a country? You change the next generation. And that is the war front. That is the battlefront. So for us to fight it at the top is really not where the battle is anyway. We need to be fighting at the local level, taking back our school boards, taking back our city councils, our county commissioners, our sheriffs. That is the war. I find more fraud in school board races than any other race. And we have overturned several because of that.
Really?
It's quite, if you think about it, you've got low turnouts because those usually are taking place in the spring. So you've got a huge number of people that aren't voting, which is a credit line of names that can be used to stuff ballots. And so the turnout's low, the margins are tight. Buy 100 ballots here, buy 100 ballots there. You can own every school board in the country. It's a very cheap investment for a big return.
Maybe I'm misled, Doctor, but I cannot. I know a few supervisors of elections in the region, in the state. They're good guys and gals.
Yeah.
I don't see them as being corrupt or controlled by a deeper state of activity. However, there's something going on around them.
You're not misled. In fact, my argument is we want those guys in charge of their elections. We want the local guy, the one everybody knows, the one you put in office, the one that you go to church with and your kids go to school together. We want that guy in charge of election. The clerks think, I guess you call them SOEs here, the secretaries of elections here, think they're in control of their elections. So I come in and I show them they're not. And when they see they're not, then they're like a little worried. And then when I bring them actual fraud that's happening in their election, we're not blaming them. If they were in control, then we could say it's your fault.
Okay.
Since they're not in control, the fraud's coming in a way. And so my goal is to say, why would you want to use a system that enables fraud in your community? You don't. So we need to put it back under your local control. Take it away from the state, put it back under the local community control. That's what I do.
let's focus locally now. You mentioned, we've talked about it more nationwide and regionally. Okay, light me up and get me pissed off. I want to know what you found in Escambia County, Florida, right here where I live.
Okay.
I want to know what should piss me off as a voter. If I'm so respectful of our Constitution
Yes.
and this local governance, which I'm proud of, are you telling me that there's fraud in this county?
100%. And we're going to prove it to you. And I'm putting together a team right now to assemble that fraud and present that evidence in public.
Wait a minute, you're presenting it at an event?
Yes, it'd probably be 2 months from now.
I see.
Yeah, I follow the same pattern everywhere I go. I identify where the problems are. I go into those communities. I build a team. I give them the information they need to investigate. They prepare the files of all the fraud and then present it to the public.
Okay, and therefore, that's why I'm privileged to meet you here today. Actually, I met you through a former opponent of mine, John Mills, who was one of the 10 people running for U.S. Congress in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
We were up, Matt Gaetz had left the office, and special election was called. John and I were 2 of the 10 Republicans running. Had the privilege, he was an opponent, but we became dear friends during the process, and I'm grateful. But as a result of that, I had the privilege of meeting you, and we both agreed there was something fishy.
Something fishy.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you say.
So here's a graph, and my favorite thing to do is to show people their own data. And you'd be surprised, your own secretaries of, your supervisor of elections don't even know this stuff. I show this to them and their jaws drop open. They don't know because they're using systems that are provided to them and they follow checklists. So they don't even see this. So I'll show this to them. So for example, let's just start at the state level. This is Florida. You notice this is from 1992 to 2024.
Okay.
And this blue curve on top, this is how many people are in Florida that are voting age. That doesn't mean they're eligible to vote. That's the population of voting age people. So it's been steadily climbing from about 10 million up to about 17 million, it looks like, voting age people. Then this black curve, these are data right from your Secretary of State's office. Every 2 years, how many people were registered to vote for the election in Florida? And you'll notice back here in the 90s, it was about 70%, 60, 70% of the voting age population was registered. And I can tell you just from my national experience, that's a clean voter roll. You want your voter rolls to be around 70% of the voting age population. That's a clean voter rolls. And so I would say for the next decade or two, you were fairly clean. Looks like you're starting to get a little dirty here. But then notice what happened right here in 2014. Your voter rolls suddenly surged and you ended up with more people in your voter rolls than people. How did that happen?
You ended up with more people
In your voter rolls
voter roll, in the more voters registered
than you even have people.
than we even had people.
And you notice that it's pretty sudden for that to happen. Now, what
Well, it
happened?
spiked in what year?
2020 and 2022, it looks like.
Biden-Trump election.
Yes, and the reason it did that at that point, that's the moment when the state took away local control of the rolls from the local clerks. The clerks up until that point added people, removed people, they were in charge of it. But at that point, that's when the database became centrally controlled at the state level. And so now when your local SOE adds or removes somebody, they don't add somebody or remove somebody from their own local rolls. They log into the state system. So there's this system out here that they're using that they're not in control of anymore. And that's why it can take off. And it does, because then the state starts adding people who get driver's licenses, adding people who get welfare. You touch any government agency, you're automatically put in the rolls. So guess what? Zoom, it shoots up. And they're not allowing the clerks to take people off who move away or die. They make them go through this long process. So it basically guarantees a dirty voter rolls. So that's what happened. And that's the core problem.
What the problem would be that some of those voters are not voters.
Not anymore.
So, but if they voted and were inappropriately on the roll, how did they vote? Was it an absentee vote? Was it someone in the system entering the same vote more than once?
It could be, but most people are honest. Most of our SOEs are honest guys, hardworking guys, and they're not cheating. Most of the time, the fraud is happening through mail-in ballots.
Through mail-in ballots.
And here you guys are in Florida, a third of your ballots come in by mail.
That's what Dinesh D'Souza was talking about in
Yeah.
2000 Mules.
Yes. So you've given away.
Did you have a chance to talk to him?
Oh, yeah, I did.
What was his take? I mean, did he just disappear because of threat of life, or was it?
With him?
Yeah.
He, I had breakfast with him after his movie came out, and I kind of complained a little bit. You know, I said, hey, you showed that there's this problem, but all you would have had to do is take one more step, and you could have showed who was doing it too. I mean, those mules that are dropping the ballots in the drop boxes for $10 a piece, we don't really care about those guys. It's sort of like doing a drug bust. We want to know who the pusher is, who's giving them the ballots to put in the boxes. And he says he wasn't allowed to because Salem, who produced that, Salem Media, was afraid of getting sued. So they,
And they had a right to be, considering what happened to Mike Lindell.
100%. Everybody was afraid of being sued. It was during the Biden administration. Lawfare was rampant.
Right.
And so everybody was afraid. So that's why he only took it to that point, just to show the problem.
But an attorney general with any sense of ethics and standards, if he had to wait until after the Biden administration, I presume it's still within the statute of limitations.
Oh, yeah. There's no statute of limitations on fraud either. You
okay.
can prosecute fraud as long as you like, 20 years from now.
So we have an attorney general now that probably is drinking water out of a fire hose with so much in front of her.
Yes. And Trump, I mean, I know him personally, and he's got a vendetta, what happened to him in 2020. So you notice the Fulton raid where they seized the ballots from there in Georgia.
Yeah.
And Venezuela is not an accident. Venezuela is where the 2016 and 2020 elections were being hacked from. That was like central control center with this whole Smartmatic setup. So that's
What happens to the people that were sued by Smartmatic? Like Mike?
I'm in that case, I know it, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Now evidence shows that Mike deserves a reprieve or exoneration.
I think he needs to be reimbursed too for all of his expenses.
That's where I'm going. What's the next step to getting Mike reimbursed? Or is Mike in the position now, does he have a basis for a counterclaim?
I think he has plenty of basis for a counterclaim. But
I mean, look what happened on the Tucker Carlson Fox News side.
Yes.
It was a similar story, bigger money.
Yeah.
700 million, I think it was.
Yes.
But,
that was a defamation case against Fox.
but it was over the same accusation.
Yes.
Of misuse of the equipment. Relationships matter because people buy people, and that's why I buy Eddie Zarin Insurance of the Zarin Insurance Agency in Pensacola, Florida. A family-owned business with over 50 years in the business, and they treat people the right way. From homeowners insurance to contractors insurance, condo insurance, commercial insurance, all the different coverages that are out there, and of course auto insurance. They've got you covered. They worry about you first. You're more than a policy number. You're a person who they're watching out for, not when the sun is shining, but after the hurricane has left. If you want real service with real savings, contact Eddie Zarin at the Eddie Zarin Insurance Agency. www.zarininsurance.com. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did when you do. Now, evidence shows that Mike deserves a reprieve or exoneration.
I think he needs to be reimbursed too for all of his expenses.
That's where I'm going. What's the next step to getting Mike reimbursed? Or is Mike in the position now, does he have a basis for a counterclaim?
I think he has plenty of basis for a counterclaim. But
I mean, look what happened on the Tucker Carlson Fox News side.
Yes.
It was a similar story, bigger money.
Yeah.
700 million, I think it was.
Yes.
But,
that was a defamation case against Fox.
but it was over the same accusation.
Yes.
Of misuse of the equipment.
What happened was in the Fox case, Tucker was saying something different in his private communications than he was saying on the air. And so Fox was sued because they could prove what it's not defamation if I say you're ugly, if I really believe you're ugly. But if I say in private, man, that guy's the most handsome guy I ever met, and then online I say you're ugly, or on TV, you can sue me for defamation because I clearly am. It's not just freedom of speech. I'm deliberately misrepresenting my opinion. So that's what they got Fox for, and that's why he had to resign afterwards. It was around the election issue. You know, Tucker Carlson would say in private that he thought Sidney Powell was a wackadoodle and he didn't believe all this election fraud stuff, and then he would get on and talk about it. So that's
Interesting analogy.
That's what happened. That's what that case was about. So it's not the merits of the case that matter in Mike's case. In fact, he won his appeal on the $5 million challenge thing. I don't know if you heard about that. That's a big piece of news. But it's not the merits. The merits are on his side. The question is how does he survive when he has to pay all these lawsuits and all these attorneys? And, you know, he's $40 million in the hole because they just suing him. They have infinite resources against the small guy.
You called it in a previous interview momentum. You may have the facts in order.
Right.
But you need the momentum.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
So, for example, in 2020, in December 2020, Trump had all the evidence he needed to overturn the election from 2020. But what he didn't have were two things. First, he didn't have a single legislature in the country that would decertify and would stand with him. And second, the American people were caught like deer in the headlights. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have something's wrong. We know something's stinky here, but what is it? We don't know what to do. And we'd kind of been conditioned into this mode where we don't really do anything. We just sit around and watch. Trump's elected, he'll fix it. You know, no, that's not the grassroots. Grassroots, we fix the problem. So momentum is about, it's like Trump posted in August last year. He said he wants to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, get rid of voting machines. He has it's a long tweet. It's like an essay for him. But he didn't say, I'm going to sign an executive order. He said, I'm going to lead a movement. And he's right, because the Constitution, which you alluded to so nicely at the beginning, keeps elections at state level. The federal government can't dictate how they run their elections. There's a little bit of gray area there because the states have been accepting HAVA money and NVRA money. But in principle, the states don't have to do what the federal government says about their elections. So he needs to lead a movement. So what am I doing? I'm going around county by county, organizing groups of counties, building a movement, and that momentum that you're talking about, that momentum is now building around the country. So we're giving Trump the movement he wants to lead.
I understand the local control issue versus national or governing, taking away individual rights.
Yeah.
I'm not talking that. I'm talking about the notion that there's got to be commonality in a national election. One thing I know about where you are in Ohio and all your visits out on the West Coast is that there's one or two names on that ballot that's the same there as it is right here in Florida. And that's the president and the vice president.
Yes.
My problem is that the rest of the ballot going down is unique to that area.
Correct.
State and local levels. But there must be some commonality if we're to ensure efficacy, that the vote in Redding and Shasta County, California, is the same as mine in Pensacola. The term I learned in school was coterminous. One man, one vote.
Yes.
If you're going to have one man, one vote apply across this nation, then there must be some commonality about how we weigh that vote. My vote in my area here must be equal to your vote wherever the heck you are. And I don't know if we accomplish that by allowing states to control it.
Yeah,
that's my concern. You started the conversation earlier with the problem going to the state and asking them to fix it.
Right.
What was their response?
We like it the way it is.
We like this fraud just the way it is, thank you.
Yes.
Well, that's the problem.
Yes.
There's a place and time for the national government to step in and put some overriding controls in place so that the rules in Shasta County, California are the same as Escambia County, Florida. What say you?
I agree to some degree. The Electoral College sort of defeats the one man, one vote thing, right? It's supposed to be close.
And so does two senators from every state.
Yes, and that's exactly.
But these were triggering mechanisms to create this Constitution and to get the small states to buy in with the large states.
Right.
Well, okay, because two senators in Rhode Island Boy, they're carrying a pretty strong vote.
Exactly.
Compared to 2 senators in Florida.
True.
So I don't know what to say, except I recognize weaknesses in the argument.
Yeah.
But today, Doctor, how do you bring a common rule together so you reveal and show all this fraud?
Yes.
And compromise in the election process?
So
What's the solution short of an amendment to the Constitution?
So the thing about Trump that we all seem to enjoy is that he's a wheeler dealer. He loves to deal, and he uses his levers. So an example of this is I was at the governor's conference. It was last year during CPAC, maybe a year and a half ago now, where the governor of Maine said, well, we're going to have women in men's sports. And Trump said, because he had signed the executive order banning women from men's sports, remember? Or the other way around, men in women's sports.
Women's
I said
sports.
it backwards. And so she says, well, we're going to allow men in our women's sports. And so he just said, give me that list of grants that go to Maine. I'm going to start redlining those grants. So he uses the levers he has. So now, because the states have been accepting NVRA money and the states have been accepting HAVA money, guess what? He's got some leverage. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he started saying things like, well, if you want to keep getting these federal grants, you're going to have photo ID in your elections, and you're going to have, one-day voting. You're going to have machines which can't connect to networks. In other words, he could begin applying those pressures. Now, I was in Washington County, Oregon recently, and it was right after he had passed the DEI executive order, getting rid of DEI organizations. And the county officials, I was there at the meeting, they all voted. They said, we're going to forego the $140 million we get a year from the federal government because we're going to keep our DEI programs. So in other words, the lever that Trump has with that, he's kind of lost. They're willing to say, forget it, we're going to have it our way anyway. And that is the Constitution. The Constitution gives the states their power. But I think the money is a powerful lever. And so I think that's the way Trump's going to address your question. How do we make sure that in a presidential election it's the same in every state? He might say things like, well, in a federal election, you have to have a photo ID. He might say, and if they say, well, we object, he'll say, fine, give me that grant list. We'll start taking you off the list.
Well, losing $140 million, they can't be solo on this forever.
Right.
Something's going to give.
So that's the kind of thing I expect to happen. Because it's going to be hard to get a constitutional amendment, and if he imposes an executive order, the states will appeal it. It'll go to the Supreme Court, and I actually think the Supreme Court would probably rule against it, which is probably why he hasn't done it. Because you notice every one of his executive orders is passing court scrutiny.
Yes.
Because he's got teams of lawyers making sure that they're going to pass court scrutiny. I think that's why he didn't say, I'm going to sign an executive order. He says, I'm going to lead a movement.
Speaking of movement, we're with Dr. Douglas Frank from Ohio, but he's on a huge tour across the nation. He's hundreds of locations.
Thousands. I've done thousands of
now.
Presentations now in the last 5 years.
Well, that's impressive. And it's all on election integrity, election fraud. He's a scientist with a strong research and analytical background. And you put algorithms together, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you're not just blowing it off the top of your head. You're grabbing data at the local level, which is why you're here.
Yep.
And you're grabbing that data to formulate a result based on fact.
Yes.
And now you're doing what with it? Turning back over to the locals.
Yeah, I'll meet with the local grassroots team, and I'll give them their own data from their own elections. And then I'll say, here's a list of addresses that are suspicious. You should knock on that door, because at that residence, it says that there are 15 people registered and half of them voted, but they have different last names. What's going on with that? Maybe you should check that one out. And so they go knock. And so it's not canvassing, it's targeted investigations. And then we prove over and over again that there's fraud getting into your elections. And then the question is, well, is it that evil SOE? Is it our county commissioners? Who is doing this? It's not the local people. It's outside influences.
Which was always my concern about a deep state initiative, a wave, a silent wave that was coming in around the local guys and gals that were duly elected.
Yes.
That actually didn't that were kind of surprised once they got into office why they're feeling gridlock with a lot of things they want to get done. It's because of some of these circumstances around them. Now, you're making your way across the country. Does it keep on forever? Does it end? Do you have an end in sight? What would be the ideal outcome for Dr. Frank?
Right now I've got movements really accelerating in about 6 states. I've got Oregon and California, Wisconsin, Alabama, Maine, and I'm working hard to get something going here in the Panhandle in Florida. I've got, some lukewarm movements in other states, but those are my hottest places. And people are always surprised. They're like, gee, Dr. Frank, well, how can you be successful in Oregon? And there are a couple of things about it. The first thing is, I have the way General Flynn puts it, the pain level there is high. And so when the pain level is high, the people wake up.
They're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you think of Oregon, it's shaped like a rectangle, and there's this mountain range called the Cascades, about a third of the way in. West of the Cascades, those counties are mostly blue and there's blue and purple and some red. But you go east of the Cascades, and there are 15 counties there, and 13 of them have already signed resolutions to secede from the state of Oregon. They're so fed up with it, so it's very conservative out there. We're talking like 4-1 MAGA counties. So Oregon really is quite conservative. 32 of the 36 counties are conservative.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is get them organized to stand against the state, say we're not going to use your system anymore.
Did you experience the same in Great Falls, Montana? Because I noticed you ran up against some resistance, but your data was sound.
Oh yeah, all my data. I use their own data. Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got good legislators.
But it was a conservative, sleeping town.
Yes.
Everyone was happy in their ignorance. But
Yes.
you storm in, and you're bringing in all this information. And
Their own data.
Now with their own data, and you got them upset. Even the supervisor of elections saying, "Where the hell did he get that?"
Exactly. They don't like it.
They don't. So you're leaving these communities after you stir the pot. What happens?
Yes, I have. They call me the Johnny Appleseed of election integrity because I'm going around planting little seeds. But I think a better description is I touch off little spot fires.
Yeah.
And then I come back 2 months later and throw gasoline on them. And then I come back 2 months later, and by then, man, the communities are on fire. We have teams organizing. So my ultimate goal is to get multiple states to have to go back to local control. Once that starts happening, I think it's over.
But there's got to be a commonality. Do you agree?
Yeah.
A system process commonality. For example, 1 day, 1 vote.
Yes.
Paper ballot. Very strong limitation on the absentee and mail-in. Mm-hmm. In fact, from my point of view, if I was a congressman, I'd support a paid holiday. Because if you're going to take
100%.
the day off and wait in lines, they've got to adjust at the local level the
Right.
sudden influx of votes on 1 day.
Yeah, sure.
So you're creating an issue at the local level.
They have no trouble in Alabama.
Yeah.
The key is
That's a good point.
The reason why SOEs or clerks, depending on your state, the reason why they object when you say that is because all the load's been put on them. And so they feel that load, and it's like, don't make me do that all in 1 day. Now, we used to run our elections at the precinct level, and we had people at each place, and they did their own local counting and then turned in the numbers. So it's very doable. I mean, 20, 30 years ago.
Well, it is. I mean, in our election for the presidency, the last Trump election, we were Florida, 30 million people. Yeah. We had the election wrapped up at 10 in the evening.
No reason to not. All of Europe does it that way, by the way, on 1 day.
Yeah.
There's all hand counting, all in-person voting, 1 day.
Yeah.
There's no reason we can't do that. We just have to take a step back away from everything being centralized and say, we're going to run it at the precinct level.
Interesting.
That's all we have to do. We just have to move back. And Alabama's right next door to you, and they're doing it that way. There's no reason you can't do that as well.
I want to make sure before you leave Grassroots Truthcast episode today with me that you have a chance to espouse everything that you need to get out. You can direct it to the local folks, which would be wonderful. Mm-hmm. But I use that as an example of what you would want to direct nationwide to everyone else as well. What's your key points? What's your message?
My message is we the people have forgotten that we're the government. We're the sovereigns. For decades now, we've been letting other people teach our children. How's that working out? We've been letting other people run our government. How's that working out? We've been letting other people run our elections. So we need to wake up. We need to reassume our civic duties, our sovereign duties. We have to remember that America is an experiment in self-government. It's supposed to be us. But the problem is, for decades, we've become conditioned. I can remember as an elementary school student, teachers saying, oh, you have a problem? Let's write our legislator. Wrong. You got a problem? You fix it. We are self-governing. We've lost that core idea. So the elections, I think, it's sort of like if you think of the story of David and Goliath. When David showed up at the battlefield, there's this big oaf out in the field insulting their God, insulting their nation. And he goes to his brothers and he says, hey, get out there and take care of business. And they said, you're just a shepherd, go home, right? But he stood in front of Goliath, he threw the stone, he cut off the head. Then the Bible says, after he slew Goliath, the children of Israel rose up and chased the Philistines out of the land. The problem wasn't Goliath. The problem was the children of Israel were hiding in the hills. Our problem is we're hiding in the hills. You have a famous constitutional scholar here, Chris Ann Hall. I'm a big fan of hers here in the state. Mm-hmm. And she says we're in the Trump slump. We've elected Trump. Now everybody's sitting on their hands waiting for him to fix everything. No, we're the government.
We're supposed to fix it.
We're supposed to fix it. He's supposed to be our leader, but we're supposed to fix it.
Well, he certainly has proven he can chew gum and walk at the same time.
Oh, boy.
My words, he's 7 or 8 wars he's diverted or deflected us from getting into. He's maintained a relationship with Israel. All this was going on while someone locally was dealing with the election fraud issue. Yeah. I really think that the Congress, which is why I ran and why John ran with me, we both feel the same way about this. The bad behavior is the problem.
We've lost our virtue.
We lost our virtue, but more importantly, there are no consequences for bad behavior.
Well said.
If a congressman or woman does wrong, including vile, vitriolic slander of an individual, 3 feet away from them with the cameras running, they get away with it and destroy that person's life.
Yeah.
That stuff's got to end. My little child or grandchild watching that on news says, well, I'm not going into that line of work when wondering if he should serve this nation someday. You've got military retirees who are so despondent and hurt by what they see now as a government that doesn't respect their effort, their contribution. I think what you're doing is lighting the match in the gas tank, I like to call it.
Yes.
And what happens from there is the fixing of the election system, fixing election integrity and removing the fraud is but a starting point.
It's the elephant in the room.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yes.
What would you think the following successor issues should be?
Almost all of the issues we face that we like to argue about, abortion, education, taxes, tariffs, all these other issues are actually downstream from our elections, because the people we elect to represent us make those decisions. So if we can maybe the most important office in the country, maybe the most important elected office is the school board. We learned that in 2020, didn't we? That's at a critical, and yet people have been discounting that for decades. So people are waking up and re-engaging. Or I think people will tell me, I'm running for Congress. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? You're going to be one among 450. How about instead, why don't you run for city council or a county commissioner? Because man, oh man, you make important decisions that affect people's lives every day. That's a very important position.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's what for the public to wake up and re-engage our civic duties, our sovereign duty, as Chris Ann Hall puts it, I think that is after the elections are working again, then I think that's the next step, since you asked about the next step.
Okay, so what's your next step?
So I'm watching the midterms coming up. And I've already run all the numbers. I'm a modeler. I've been predicting elections since 1980, and I predicted every presidential election too, until 2020, which was a little surprise. I even predicted Trump 2016, 13 months in advance. Put all my predictions online, showed everybody.
Really?
Yeah, and that was when there were 17 people in the primary. And so, I'm a mathematician guy, I'm an analytical guy, build algorithms. So I've already run the numbers on 2026, and they're not good. And people think
For the Republican Party.
right.
Yeah.
People think that Trump won in 2024, but when you look at the numbers, he didn't win. He held his own from 2020. What happened is the Democrats fell through the floor. And I can show you across the nation, precinct by precinct, the Democrats didn't turn out for Kamala. So, I like saying Trump didn't win, the Democrats lost.
Well, I don't see an alternative in 2028 turning out against J.D. Vance or whoever it ends up being, but that's a side point right now. More importantly, you and I have a dear friend, Mike Lindell, running for governor in Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah.
What do your numbers say?
When it was him against Waltz, it was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
But now that it's Amy Klobuchar, I think it's much tighter race. And Minnesota has amazing election laws. I've become like an expert on this, and every state's got their own things. In Minnesota, they have it's built into their elections. They have a lot of these Mennonites and Amish people who they don't have driver's license, they're not formally registered and whatnot.
Right.
And so you can walk into the polls with 10 people. And I could walk in and say, I'm Doug Frank, I'm in the rolls, I'm official, and I vouch for these 10 people. They don't have to show any ID, and they all get to vote. So there's like a built-in.
Is that unique to?
That's Minnesota, so Mike is up against an election system that has a huge back door to stuff ballots.
I hate to say it, but that might work for him. I mean, for all the wrong reasons. I think he's very fortunate in that sense because I trust a Mennonite or an Amish.
But what if I back
before
up?
I trust a Klobuchar person?
What if I stand there with 10 Somalis?
Well,
and then I use them again in the next precinct.
Okay, right
and
now,
use them again in the next precinct.
February 2026, we're in the middle of a broadcast, and the Senate has to vote on
SAVE.
the SAVE Act,
Yeah.
the Safekeeping American Voters Act.
Yeah.
What is the likelihood of us going to voter identification?
I think that's got some, I would say 50-50. But let me remind you that in June of last year, Kash Patel revealed some of the FBI data that they had seized in October before the 2020 election outside of Detroit. 1 million fake driver's licenses, 1 million fake ballots.
Minnesota alone.
No, this was outside of Detroit.
Michigan.
Yes, and that was, the FBI, and that's just one that he's describing. And those phony IDs, driver's licenses, were produced in China, we know for a fact. And so ID is not the solution necessarily, because I can print a bunch of fake IDs and you can line people up, and it's important. I'm not saying it's important.
Do you agree then that while we argue about how to create a standard that we can live by in terms of voter ID and what a citizen is, can we agree that we go forward with a constitutional amendment that establishes a baseline for that?
That's tough.
I mean,
Tough
I don't
to get
see
a constitutional amendment.
I know it is.
Yeah.
That's why, for all the wrong reasons, again, I hope the filibuster's killed, the Senate wins the SAVE Act, they get a majority in the House and Senate plus the president, and for all the wrong reasons, they have politics on their side to pass such a constitutional amendment in the House and Senate.
So I don't want to sound like,
I'm brainstorming with
I
you.
don't want to be too cynical, but here I am sitting in Florida, the free state of Florida, where you've got a supermajority of Republicans in the House and Senate, and you can't pass election reform here. And we don't have a supermajority in the Congress.
Well, I agreed with you that the sinister behavior is not limited to one party.
Right. And
My problem is if we don't do something, the house of cards will fall.
And I've learned we just don't have time to wait for those guys.
Yeah,
that's why I'm working at the local
grassroots level.
Yes, that's what's effective, and that's what's working now.
Yes, good for you.
And it sort of forces the hand. Imagine if here I am in the panhandle of Florida. Let's say Santa Rosa and Escambia and Holmes and a few of these counties up here, that they all linked elbows and they said to the state, you know what, your system is corrupt, your system is dirty, we're not going to comply with it anymore. We're going to run our own elections. What would happen? Your legislature would go nuclear.
Yeah.
And it would force the hand. They would have to take action. If we're waiting for them to take action, ain't going to happen. But if we force them to take action, aha, that's what I'm doing.
A politician works very effectively when they're scared or in fear.
Politicians don't start parades, they join them. That's my
correct.
phrase. Yes.
I'm going to pivot on you for just a second.
Yeah,
Let me
sure.
ask you, it sounds off the topic, but it's not. While this podcast is being recorded, we foresee the pending collapse of Cuba. Venezuela is now under control, officially or unofficially, by the United States of America.
Yep.
As they get their act together. We've got Greenland up there that's,
Yeah, right.
that is a lot of ice, as Donald Trump would
just
say.
buy it.
Let's just buy it. We've got parts of Canada, if not all of Canada, that looks to being maybe a new state with the United States. We standing alone and apart from all this is Puerto Rico, which is not a state of the United States, but enjoys the benefits of American benefits of goods
They're
and
a
services.
protectorate, right?
Yes, indeed. A republic of their own, but they are not paying the taxes you and I are.
Right. They couldn't afford it.
Are we at the point where we might start considering these foreign nations not worrying about getting over a border to get into the United States? Stay right where you are. Become an American citizen in Puerto Rico. Vote in Puerto Rico. Pick 2 senators and congressmen from Puerto Rico. And get the incentives from the United States government that we have here in the States in terms of healthcare, national defense, infrastructure. And oh, by the way, pay your taxes in Puerto Rico like you and I are.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can go either way.
Right.
Bring in another 10 million people that are going to try to come in here illegally, or keep them right where they are to become taxpayers right there where they are, is an argument I've been making through my political and business history in the area. And sometimes it falls on deaf ears, other times it's heard. But you don't solve a problem by bringing them all here, and now they're not even being coy about it. They're brash, and they're saying, we're not going to assimilate into an American culture.
We're going to bring Sharia law with us.
We're going to bring Sharia law with us,
Exactly.
and Detroit's about to fall for that reason.
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, if you don't get them to assimilate into our nation,
Yeah.
while you work on getting them out, go back to where you came from and become a 51st state.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be contiguous like the lower 48. We have
Right.
Alaska and Hawaii.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
So I bring to your attention that notion in the context of how it affects election integrity.
I am academic by training. And so I like playing with ideas like yours. Well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I tend to be a libertarian in my heart. I'm a heart libertarian, right?
Don't tell anybody, but we have friends who are libertarian. I love that camp.
Yeah, it's in my heart, not my practice, right? It's like, yeah, the ideas are good, but I'm not going to vote that way because I'm throwing my vote away. But so it's sort of like it's
a catch-22.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a good rhetorical device. So you're asking the question, how should we address like the immigration problem? You know, does it make sense to leave them where they are and all that? I like that idea, but I have to say it's sort of like the Constitutional Convention, the fifth that everybody's talking about, where there's the where people want to have a Constitutional Convention to revise the Constitution. I'm not optimistic at this point in time about our legislatures and our Congress I don't trust them.
Oh, I don't either.
With our Constitution, no. And I don't trust. So I'm
But
afraid.
if ever I was to trust them, Doctor, wouldn't it be when they control the House, the Senate, and the presidency? I mean, that would be my last hope, that it would be able to. We will not have a constitutional amendment again unless
Yeah.
The Republicans hold the House, Senate, and the presidency.
Well,
And we're closer than ever to that point in time.
Here's an example. Montana, you brought up a minute ago. One of my favorites there, Teresa Manzella. She's a state senator there. I really like her. She was telling me the story last month. So they had an election in 2024, and the Republican Party won 32 out of the 50 seats for senators. So state senators were 32 to 18. So the Republicans were all like, hooray, we're going to go in here, we're going to reform our laws, we're going to reform our Constitution, blah, blah, blah. The first week of the 2024 legislative session in Montana, 9 of those 32 Republican senators caucused with the Democrats.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is we're in a mess because people are voting R because there's an R in front of their names.
Yeah.
And so even though it sounds like we have a majority, we may not. And so I'm not trusting yet that we have the right people in there to make those choices.
I would say I almost agree completely, but then I see a guy by the name of John Fetterman, who I didn't think much of in the beginning when he came in. Dress code aside, I just couldn't understand his thinking.
Yeah.
But when I listen to him more and more now, he's putting principles before personalities.
Yes.
He's putting principles before party.
Which is right.
Which is what you're supposed to be doing in the first place.
Exactly.
Now, if more guys can be engendered the way he came about, I think we may save this democracy. And I'm talking both sides of the fence, not just Democrat. I'm talking Democrat and Republican.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know what to say specifically other than I'm not willing to give up on this constitutional republic.
Me neither.
Because it's a grassroots thing that you brought up.
Yeah.
And it's also the only governance I know that's from the grass or from the ground level up. It's not autocratic from the top down. So I know I'm not being left behind. And if I am, it's my fault for not participating.
Yes. Or the system is corrupt that allowed you to control that. And that's what I'm addressing, because the people need to be back in control.
Doctor, this has been a great interview. I can't thank you enough for coming. We ran over. I know we ran over. I don't care. We were so glad to have you. We're talking with Dr. Douglas Frank from the Midwest, who's been on thousands of visits to villages, towns, and counties around the nation, doing in those communities what he's doing here right now with us. He leaves here and he's off on another part of our community, trying to get the word out about election integrity, election fraud, and what we must do at the local level to fix it. www.genevalentino.com. Please subscribe. Dr. Frank, how can they find out more about you?
I posted it earlier, but let me click on that. If people would like to follow me, this is a collection of my social media sites where I post pretty regularly, and so people know where I am, what I'm doing, how I'm doing, what movements are doing what in what parts of the country. I'm going to be in California next week, and then Wisconsin, and back in Alabama again, and Oregon. I'm pretty much on the road 25 out of 30 days a month with this effort.
So scientist becomes a hero of and patriot of the American Constitution and the protection of its long term. And folks, if you can't reach Dr. Frank directly, feel free to get him through me, Gene Valentino, www.genevalentino.com, Grassroots Truthcast. Subscribe, please. We get our value from the subscriber count we enjoy on our viewers. And by the way, Doctor, if there's anything me or my viewers can do to help you, let us know. Any postings of shows or episodes or other things you're doing with others. Our website's an open forum. I know you're doing episodes with other well-known folks in the area as well. And they're great to step up and help you out, and I'm grateful to them for doing it. This is a community effort, and I'm going to end the way I started. I'm going to read you that preamble from the Constitution. Doctor, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure the domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I memorized it in 1968 in Ms. Lovejoy's class, and I couldn't get it out of my head for years. I needed to reference it now. A few gray cells have kicked in. But all truth, it's something that has stayed with me for my lifetime and is why you're here today. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
I couldn't be so honored to have you here. If people need to reach you, they can get you through the website.
Yeah.
And folks, you can reach them through me as well. We'll make sure we stay in touch. And God willing, Mike Lindell is a good example of the data turning his way to get him elected as governor.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode on Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. See you soon. Relationships matter because people buy people, and that's why I buy Eddie Zarin Insurance of the Zarin Insurance Agency in Pensacola, Florida. A family-owned business with over 50 years in the business, and they treat people the right way. From homeowners insurance to contractors insurance, condo insurance, commercial insurance, all the different coverages that are out there, and of course auto insurance, they've got you covered. They worry about you first. You're more than a policy number. You're a person who they're watching out for, not when the sun is shining, but after the hurricane has left. If you want real service with real savings, contact Eddie Zarin at the Eddie Zarin Insurance Agency. www.zarininsurance.com. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did when you do.